Thanks for a lovely video. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of Digital HR, a leading community in human resource, I, Chandan Anand, Vice President of Innosoft Group and Digital HR, welcome you all in today's exciting forum of this webinar. The future of HR 2021, evolving the role of new age HR leaders. Digital HR has been doing and creating this virtual knowledge sharing platform by organizing series of webinars, virtual events, training sessions, mindfulness classes, and thus creating opportunities of sharing ideas and innovations, opportunities of collaboration, and has somewhere helped in encouraged us to use the technology in the HR space. And successfully, we have reached more than the 80,000 HR community members. This slide needs to be revised. So 10 is less over here. And we have opened 10 city chapters. This is how we have created the WhatsApp community groups. So we have different community groups through the WhatsApp, like Hyderabad, Mumbai, say Bangalore, Delhi. And likewise, we have been connecting HR leaders, HR professionals, HR tech companies, startups, and we have been creating this virtual knowledge sharing platform by organizing, as I told you, a series of webinars as of now. And we have been able in bringing experts and HR leaders from the sectors like automobile, e-commerce, BFSI, healthcare, IT, ITS, hospitality, etc. To this virtual knowledge sharing platform. We are co-creating and learning from each other. And we are creating this networking platform with who's who from the HR fraternity, and thus creating the opportunities of collaborations. We are thrilled to inform that the event had got a good response, and we were able to bring people from across the country, and we are very extremely and very happy and thankful to all of you who have joined us today. As we all know that we have been caught off guard and faced numerous challenges as we adopt to new normal. Organizations have boldly faced the disruption and were quick to adopt the technological innovations and have been able to stabilize and bounce back quickly as the pandemic is unfolding. The background of today's webinar is that the HR leaders are the pillars that keeps employees aligned with the company's goal. This is currently very crucial due to several factors such as remote working, communication gaps, psychological factors, and lack of employee engagement, etc. HR leaders, therefore, need to lead the shift from work-life balance to work-life balance, blend in new normal. Today's expert panel will have an exciting deliberation and will explore many facts and figures like how has been the pandemic changed the HR leadership in India's corporate organization, how have the innovation and technology impacted the future of Indian workspace with remote work and work from home becoming more widespread, how have HR policies changed to reflect this change in the work model, and many more. Uh, with this, let me take the session forward, and may I please like to invite my colleague Ashish Muglu to kindly introduce the panel speakers for the day. Ashish.
Thank you so much, Chandanji, for giving me this wonderful opportunity. And I, Ashish, leading the business of digital HR, part of InnoServe Group, welcome you all, the eminent speaker who join us today, this wonderful session, which is the future of HR. So I would like to firstly introduce Dr. Sanjeev Dixit. He is loved to be called as entrepreneur, and he has been growing personally and professionally by creating and executing unconventional and path-breaking ideas. He is a global HR leader with more than 23 plus years of strategic corporate HR and CHRO experience across diversified industries. He has worked with Himalaya, Dubai Hindalco, Philips, Indorama Jakarta, PepsiCo, Alstom, ABD, and other senior roles, and currently he is the global president of human capital management with Cadillac Pharmaceutical. He's a doctorate in HRM and organizational development from globally renowned Academy of HRD, Ahmedabad, India. So I welcome Dr. Sanjeev Dixit. So we have another one, eminent speaker, Mr. Rajesh Kumar Sinha. He's the assistant president and head HR, TBA Energy India Private Limited. He's the senior HR professional having more than 2 decades of experience in HR and IR field with a demonstrated history of working in the electrical power sector, FMCG and beverage industries. He has also worked with in talent acquisition, talent management, strategic HR, performance management system, learning and development, change management, and compensation benefit as well. He is currently heading the TVA Energy India Private Limited. I welcome personally Rajesh Kumar Sinha on this
Welcome, Rajesh.
session. So we have Miss Devi Maheshwari. She's heading the head HR Flexi Loans with over 11 years of experience in human resource. She's heading this division for a leading fintech company startup in MSME digital lending space with postgraduate in psychology and executive program in HR. She carries diversified expertise and experience straddling every aspect of HR, having worked with people strategy, organization culture that leads to certification of great place to work within 2 years in a row to talent acquisition, employee relation, and other areas. I welcome Devi for this wonderful session. We have
Mm.
Miss K. Jayasubha. She is the Chief People Officer from TVS Credit Services Limited. She is a postgraduate in HR from Madras University, over 2 decades of experience in the manufacturing and service industries. She has worked with companies such as Titan Industry, Ford India, and Prasad Corporation. During her tenure, she is also worked with Titan as several challenging assignments, including managing unions, negotiating wage settlement, and employee relation on the shop floor. She currently heads HR at TVS Credit. Under the leadership, the employee count of TVS Credit has risen from 3,000 to 10,000, spread over 3,200 locations across the country. So I welcome Jaya Subha in this wonderful session.
Welcome,
So
Rajesh.
we have Miss Pooja Luthra. She is the founder, Humani Insight, and board member of Trident Group. She's a seasonal leadership expert with an interesting, invigorating of over 2 decades. She has spent more than a decade and a half working with Gallup. Pooja has held key role involving work with CXO in North America, MENA, and APAC region as well. She helped with them building organization they dream of. They deploy a holistic talent strategy. She has consulted over 100 organizations in creating and sustaining a strength based engagement focused and performance oriented culture. Her work has transcended across organizations worldwide: Accenture, Airtel, AstraZeneca, Apollo Hospital, Daimler, GSK, Hero Motocorp, HCL, Mashreq Bank Dubai, VE Commercial, to name a few. I welcome Pooja to join this wonderful session as a moderator and leading this session. So over to you, Pooja.
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you so much for all the generosity of the invite and the generosity of the introduction. And I think it's an absolute pleasure and honor to be amidst everyone here today, and a very warm welcome to all those attending the session from all our sides. And we've been absolutely excited about this for over a few weeks. And I think uh, as we sit here today, it's probably been right about that time, about that 1 year mark that we are hitting now, of when we were all thrown into oblivion. And I remember this time, we're on 26th of Feb. I think everything sort of went haywire from here last year. And I think since then, it's safe to say that we've all been part of a lot of discussions and brainstorming and exchange of ideas, simply because nobody knew any better. Nobody did not know what to expect. And I think the minute we thought we had figured something out, the goal moved. So it was a moving goalpost through the years. And I think we were all put into the throes of various challenges. Um, I think when it comes to, and I'm excited about discussing all of this today, because as we were discussing before we went live, that we have a great mix of people from a variety of industries, right from fintech to pharma to manufacturing and all of that. And it'll be really, really great to hear from my colleagues here on certain things. The situation has been the same, but it's safe to say we're in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. And if we are not in the same boat, each industry has managed it differently. Everybody has got a different perspective. Who's to say what's right or wrong? But it'll be good to talk about certain things that we've all faced and take it from there. So before we get into it, I'll just sort of give a short point of view on the mega trends that we have seen through the year, and then if my colleagues permit me, we'll go one by one and talk about each one of them, and to see that if you had any experience in dealing with those, and how have you sort of managed to overcome some of those challenges that may have been a first for you and your organizations. So of course, needless to say, digital, that's what the topic is. That is one big thing, but that's not the only one. So digital, we've been put in the throes of a digital thing, and everybody says that, it had to happen sooner or later. It's happened now and all of that. So that is one very big change. The biggest remote working experiment that ever was, everybody knows that. So that is a change that's come in. We've been talking about data analytics, behavioral science, simply because we know how important it is to understand employees and understand the talent that we have from a behavioral science standpoint. So people are no longer just a pair of hands. There is that entire thing about well-being and professional well-being, personal well-being, and all of that. Talking about culture, which we were talking about, now suddenly there is to the culture piece, we have a V added to it, that it's a virtual culture. So how are we leading virtual cultures, and what are the challenges we are finding in some of those things? I think and of course, the idea of diversity has probably taken a completely different meaning. It's multi-generational, and even the fact that people have working out of their homes, that lends a new flavor to the idea of diversity also. So I think it's safe to say the entire landscape has changed. And as we talk today, we can probably touch upon some of these facets, and then get some examples, hopefully, so that we can brainstorm on what to do, maybe, in the next few months also. So with that, I think my first question for all of you all is a very simple one. Life then, life now, as HR professionals, what are the 2 or 3 the biggest changes that you have seen, both personally as well as in the capacity that you hold in the organizations that you belong to? So we'll get started. I think we'll just sort of take it one after the other. Devi, would you like to go first? And then we'll just sort of do a thing.
Sure, Pooja. Lovely to, be here. So quickly, coming to your question, I think the first thing that, really change is to understand the needs of the employees. I can give you a simple example. Before the pre-COVID times, employees used to come and they used to ask, hey, when are we going out for the party? So that was a need, right? Because they want to get together and they want to have some good time with each other. And suddenly the need has changed, where they are asking, I need some time gap difference between my work life and the home line. The boundary has suddenly gone, somewhere else. So understanding what is employee required right now was the key challenge that we faced. And it was something not being done in the past also. Everyone is virtually there. So the connect between the employees was a crucial challenge that we were required to, do it on a continuously mode. You can't keep on having a lot of virtual engagements also, because sooner or later it is dying. People don't want to just be on the video calls and have some parties as well. Initially, yes, it was happening, but now lately it is also becoming a challenge. So the one of the key things that has been a major shift for the HR is how you can build more connect virtually amongst the team members, where you know that you will continue to do the virtual working for next 3 to 4 months also. And I think the second part is this, that bring more human aspect to the workplace. People have gone to a lot of struggle during the COVID times, at a personal level also, professional level also. So how you can be more humanistic with them, how you can have a caring culture in the teams. Not even I'm talking about the leaders, but how people are interacting with each other at that level. So those are the you can say the shift that has gone down in the COVID times.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely. Jayaji, would you like to weigh in on that? You're on mute. Aap mute par hai.
Sorry. Can you hear me? The two things that can come to my mind, Pooja, as you're talking about this is the COVID-19 has actually looked at how we can work beyond office spaces. That's the most important thing. That's one. Then I would think, how do we handle the Zoom fatigue that employees are going through? When I say Zoom fatigue, I think all of us have gone through that and we know what it means. I mean, always talking to a computer, not having the chai breaks, not having the gossips or whatever that we do in office, missing those connects. And the third thing is, I think we have also seen the rise of appreciation of workers. How do we keep them engaged so that we don't lose the energy from them? These are the three challenges that I think as a human resource professional, COVID-19 has made me look at.
Yeah, Rajeshji, would you like to go next?
Yes. So I will, tell my experience with my company in two parts, right? So far as this COVID or post-COVID period is concerned, right? So how it has changed, way of working, how it has impacted the employee, or how it has impacted the employee. So first part is, from you can say that during the lockdown period, from March to say till August, right? So that was the period, when 1.5 months it was completely shut down. Then we started partially with 30% employee, and then finally, and so that was the period. Most of the employee working from home. So and that situation was totally different situation from the today, right? Because that time it was, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of fear, right? And it's still, few employees were required to come to factory to work, right? Because we also needed to start our, manufacturing. So how we handle that situation that time, right? So what we did that time, right? So we formed a group of 16 group, in fact, consisting of two people in each group, in fact, leader and deputy leader. So they maybe for initial 3 months, so they were calling all employees daily, those who are not working in work, and so they will there was a system. They will call at least one time during the day, maybe during the evening, and they will take that. They will ask the well-being of their family member, employee, and then and also we had a system that we will collect the temperature of all family members, right? And if they have any problem, they have any symptom of COVID or somebody is ill in. So how we can support them? How we can even, because during the lockdown, movement was not easy. During the COVID, some employee had, sometimes symptoms. They were not having COVID, but they were fever, right? They were having fever. So you never know when, whether it is a symptom of COVID or what that time, right? So yes, so because we are a company, so we are sending the vehicle to his home and we take him to hospital for checkup and then send him back. And so that was the period. Company stand up and took care of the employee, and also. So this, this corona, treatment is very expensive. Hospital is charging something like, and if one is hospitalized, hospitals come from 3 lakh to 10 lakh these days. 5-6 lakh is a very normal thing. So we also took a Corona coach policy other than medical and policy, normal medical and policy. We took Corona coach policy for all the employees, including his family member, and the coverage is 5 lakh some assured for each member, right? So that is how we shown the empathy towards the employee and the family during this pandemic period.
Absolutely.
And that is how, right. So that was one period. And since we are manufacturing organization, right? So so now we are back to normal that way. So from October onwards, almost 80% employee came back to the work, and from 1st December, now everybody is on the work, right? So we don't have any virtual, work at this moment because that is a little complex also. Still, we can manage few functions virtually, like finance maybe, IT maybe, or you can say even legal for HR also partly. But again, when 70% people, 80% people are required to work from the office, so why then 20%? So we decided to call everybody on the workplace, right? Yeah. So it has impacted organization in 2 ways. Business by, yes, that definitely affected top line and bottom line in first 6-8 months. Then we started recovering, and the way of working has changed. Not drastically, but definitely in a significant manner. Like now we have gone to on virtual things, especially meetings. We had a lot of meetings. So all the meeting are on the virtual platform. Then we are manufacturing the power transformer, and that is a heavy electrical equipment, and this is a product which is very tailor-made product. It is all totally based on the customer requirement. So customer need to visit us and for inspection and all. So all the most of the inspection is going through video.
Virtual.
Even our design people needs to go to soft floor for each and everything. So now they don't require to go for each and everything. They can provide support virtually through video and other things. So that is how in nutshell.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
We'll
that is
get
how
some
we have.
examples from you, Rajesh ji, because I think you're in one of those industries where things have gotten back to normal quite fast. So we'll brains on some of the examples. I'll quickly go to Sanjeev quickly, take his point of view, and then come back to you on some more other things that we want to talk to you about. Yeah, Sanjeev, please.
I think most of the panelists have covered what has changed, and I think the entire pandemic in real sense gave the reality check to all the organizations across the board in terms of what the VUCA is all about, because we've been always talking about VUCA, and I think the really VUCA hit once this COVID came up. And most of the, I will say the senior management leadership, I think they were not prepared. I think a lot of people got exposed in terms of the way we've been managing all these crises. So a lot of these myths also get busted in terms of, people cannot be productive from work from home, and they need to be at office. So that entire indispensability of, because by design, the office is not required and people can be productive from home. I think it absolutely ensured that. And I think in my own experience, people have delivered better working from home than commuting and then going to office and what you call being productive. So I think the most important aspect, or the, I will say, focus has been how we ensure the productivity across the board, from workmen till the senior management in this kind of a very crisis, kind of an unprecedented situation. Number two was also how we learn from this entire experience. I think the entire process of reflection and introspection, I think that has also become one part of the, I will say, regular discussion among the senior management, that how we've been preparing for any kind of such a risk, which pose to the business continuity, which pose to the way we manage our resources. I think this entire reflection and introspection is very, very, I will say, new, in the sense that we've been always very, I will say, very myopic, in the sense that, okay, next quarter, what we need to deliver. I think this has given an absolute sense that we need to be ready for anything which might not in your plan and which might occur. How we are keeping the entire organization not only current ready, but future ready. I think these are some of the learning points which happened by design because of this unprecedented scenario.
True. Absolutely, and very well put. I think the one thing that I have seen, and sitting in a couple of boardrooms, and it's poetic justice, literally, that finance, information technology, and HR, traditionally support functions, quote unquote, are the ones that were thrown in the center of it all. Suddenly, it's all about how are you managing your cash to cash cycle, how are you managing your digital, how are you managing your talent. So it was suddenly been thrown into the center stage and say, okay, now you take it from there. So thoughts on that. So when it comes to, there was the HR function then, there is the HR function now. We had our jobs then, we are doing some work now. So how do you think, what have been the big shifts in the role that you all have had to play as HR? And how has that evolved over the past 6-7? What we've spoken about right now is how has the situation evolved? How have your roles personally evolved in the past 8-9 months as HR? So I'd love to know about that. Jayaji, would you want to go first this time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I would add to what you said in this question also. I think the HR took center stage in the whole thing in the first quarter, because finding out each of the employee, whether they're there or what, I mean, taking the insurance in the month of February, when as the COVID started unfolding, and after that giving them the security that, okay, agar tumhe dal chawal nahi milega, to we will ensure that it gets delivered. Incidentally, we have 17,000 employees in the company today, and they are spread all over India. We are spread across 3,500 locations. And we are a tier 2, tier 3 company. I mean, the employees are in rural parts of India. So reaching them and ensuring that if there is any lady who's in the last trimester, I mean, we went to that kind of detail. And if there are elderly parents, we have tied up with the local hospitals. So giving them that emotional well-being was the biggest, physically, I mean, we are there with you. Hum hai na, that statement was always projected. So I would think it started from there, and then HR took up center stage. I mean, honestly, they were the stars during the first 6 months, and I would say the kind of it was everybody, including the chairman. Everybody used to talk only to the human resources department in terms of what's going on, what's happening, how are we doing, and how are we bringing productivity, how are we getting back employees on field, how are we ensuring their safety, how is the family being taken care of, and so on and so forth. So this pandemic has actually opened up prominence for the human resources function in my organization. I'm proud to say that.
Fair enough. That's good. Devi, would you want to go next?
I think the biggest challenge, Pooja, was to be more human in HR. Earlier the role, sometimes we used to take it little for granted also, that okay, HR might be only just doing A, B, C, D work in the organization. And but when the pandemic hit, yes, it became the need of the organization, and you can't take the back step during this time, because people are anxious, they are concerned about their jobs, they are concerned about what will happen to their families in general. So I think that was the biggest challenge as well as learning that I personally had during this time, that how you can be more human, and then you need to communicate. That was the most important, you can say, the point, that it is not only about that what you think and what you aspire to be, but you need to communicate and you need to reach out to your team members. So there were times where I clearly remember that there were some days where I was not able to speak to my team members, and by the day end I used to feel, hey, something is missing, just because of some work, other schedule, and also communication is something which is very core to the human lives, and we just need to keep on harping in on it, actually.
Absolutely. I remember you just said you couldn't speak to a few team members. I was taken back to April, and April was the time when everything was a standstill, right? It was completely quiet.
Yes.
And the only, physical distancing somehow also translated into social distancing. You weren't meeting anybody, and all of that happened. The calls were all work related calls, and we suddenly realized that we needed that, like Jayaji had said, the coffee break, the gossip thing. So soon I started getting invites from my team members saying, this is a just like that call.
True.
This is a no agenda call. I mean, just to be there and just yap about anything, that sort of.
Actually, that's, we also used to call it pick me up calls.
Pick me up calls. Yeah, those were, I think, so required, and they were the highlight of all our days, almost.
Absolutely. I think all the people, suddenly realize those, coffee breaks, tea breaks, the importance of it in the offices, and then virtually how you can translate it back.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Sanjeev ji, how about you? Any take on that?
I think the most important reality check has been that the things which we have taken for granted absolutely become most important and most critical. In the sense that HR needs to be compassionate, HR needs to be human, HR needs to be what we call very communicative, listening. I think earlier all these terms were very, I will say, very superficial. People used to talk about that, okay, this is more of a lip service than the real one. And when the real test of all these attributes of HR came into practice, and I think these 12 months have really exposed the fake and the real leadership, or I will say fake HR and the real HR, the real sense, because organization where the team has successfully delivered they have kind of sustained the what you call performance and kind of moved along the tide. I think that's where the entire aspect of how you're listening to the people, how you're giving that caring support. If somebody is having any kind of what you call issue, whether it is hospitalization to a very, very, I will say, basic level kind of a support, your call in the night, in the morning, going to their family. And I think that's where the real, I will say, visibility of HR came into, you can say, prominence. When families started talking about that, okay, my HR, my leadership is absolutely approachable, my leadership is visible in this hour of crisis.
Yeah.
And it's not all about the executive calling or a manager calling, but the CHRO or the CXOs, they are also connecting with the larger team. And I think the most important aspect has been the way we ensured the communication, all kind of communication. And the sense of the communication was that irrespective of all the crisis and pandemic around, we will give you the sense of normalcy. I think that was most critical piece. How we are giving that sense of normalcy. Whatever we've been doing pre-COVID, how we can do the same thing in a most, I will say, safe and what you call in a more controlled environment, but we do it, whether it is, even if it is doing at a virtual platform or in a semi-virtual platform or in a hybrid form, we do it. The core message was how we give the sense of normalcy to each and every team member of the organization.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You're calling it normalcy. I think another word that I've heard a lot is stability, that people did crave that sense of stability in the throes of the storm. And, one analogy that somebody used with me was if, let's say, there is turbulence on the flight, everyone instinctively looks at the flight attendant, right? And if the flight attendant is looking calm, you feel it can't be all bad. It's probably okay. So they had used this analogy to describe the storm that we were in, that if everybody was looking towards, let's say, the HR folks or the leadership, and they got a sense of stability and calm, they felt ke, theek hai, this too shall pass. So that was, something that I thought made a lot of sense. Rajesh ji, anything you'd like to add to that aspect of it? You're on mute.
Yes, yes. Like I mean, every panelist, like Ms. Devi, Jaya, and Mr. Sanjeev, talked about this caring part of HR, right? Caring or the compassionate part of HR. Yes. So this was the time. This was the time when this was a real opportunity for HR to demonstrate this this part of HR to the employee, right? As Mr. Sanjeev rightly told earlier, it was mostly you can say a talk or very on superficial level, mostly, right? So, Ms. Jaya also gave some example, and I also gave some example, like how we took care of the employee during this lockdown period, the COVID time, and I mean, daily, I mean, checking with well-being of the employee, family, hospitalization part, or whatever, and then the communication part, which is very important, especially for our setup, because when we started the partial operation from the last week of April, when we decided from 27th April, so we decided to call only 30% employees. There were the government norms also, or we also didn't want that much of crowd in the factory. So a peculiar situation with our company was, so since we are a Chinese company, I mean, our headquarters is based out of China, and this pandemic hit China first. So they had some experience that time, no? Because that was the early period, April. I mean, we were not equipped and we were not aware how to handle the situation. So there was, because in our factory, we have two apartments, two big apartments, 5-story building, and around we have 250 rooms. So what company decided that time, so we'll call 30% employee and we'll ask everybody to stay in the company. So they will stay 30 days in the company so that they will avoid the traveling. So that time, I mean, there was fear if they travel daily, so there is chances of getting infected. So if they stay in factory, so traveling time will be, there is no traveling, and they will stay one person in one room. So again, there is that, and at workplace, since there are only 30% people, so definitely we'll maintain that social distancing also, and with all mask and the sanitizer part. So we still, it was tough for two reasons. Since we are calling 30% employees, so the people we are calling, I mean, they have questioned why we are first thing is that. Second thing, they were not, I mean, ready to come and stay 30 days. Company intention was their well-being only, but they were telling, okay, how we can we leave our family in this situation? How we can come? How can we stay in the factory for 30 days, leaving family? So that communication helped. We explained them how, I mean, it's not, company is not going to gain out of this, right? I mean, because we also, I mean, taking care of their food, 3-time food, and all our room are AC, you know, it is all expenses for the company, right? But it's all to take care of your, you know, family and yourself, so that you are not getting infected. And so this is the, you know, real intention of the company, to only welfare, not to put you there in a room, right? So that's how. And there are a lot of questions from employee. So what kind of, you know, precaution, what kind of facility you have there, how you can protect us? So yes, so you need to, we used to explain that. So that is how we, you know, instill sort of confidence with them. Okay, okay, this may be tough for a month to stay living family, but yes, there is absolute, you know, safety there. And also we assure from the family front also, you need not to worry if anybody, you know, if anybody in your family, anybody gets sick, so you need not to worry. First, we'll send you immediately. We'll arrange you to send you to home immediately, and we also take care of your, you know, to support your family that time. And we had few cases, and we supported. So that's how we communicated, and then the employee started coming to the factory.
I think that makes sense, because I think communication, I think we can't really, you know, underestimate the importance of communication. I think it helped everybody. So getting on with one is, of course, the communication part of it. Keeping in mind our topic for discussion today, I thought it will be a good idea. See, we've all spoken about Zoom fatigue, and we've all spoken about remote working and people being at home and all of that, and communication as well. And that is for the employees. It's for everybody. Now, coming back again to your role as HR professionals, my question to you is, what does digital mean to you in the role that you're in today? So thinking about what was, what is, what does the term digital mean? How has it impacted lives? I mean, let's, for a second, we won't talk about everybody else. Everybody is talking on Zoom, and that digital part is there. But what does it mean for you as HR professionals that things have become suddenly digital? What does that mean for us? So, Sanjeev, would you like to start on with that one?
So digital to me, or as HR professional, is a tool to achieve the purpose. So I think the core thing is the purpose. What the purpose of HR in the organization, in the enterprise, in the business? And if that is clear, then all these tools, from your what you call communication tool, to analytical tool, to artificial intelligence, to big data, to XYZ, all only enable you to achieve the purpose. Now, coming to the purpose of HR to me is a business growth driver, and not the partner, because partner could be sleeping. So I always believe that the most important role for HR is to first understand what are the business priorities are, how business from your current continuity objective to how it can sustain, what the HR can contribute in those areas. So that's number one. Number two is, even in terms of how we want to achieve the, as I said, the building of that ecosystem where people feel inspired, people feel passionate about delivering their objectives, people feel committed, people feel safe, people feel secure, people feel connected, people feel that their leadership is going to take them through any kind of situation. So now these are very softer aspect of, or intangible aspect of the business. Now, as a HR, how I role model all these behaviors pertaining to passion. So am I inspiring passion through my action? Am I the person who's leading by example? Am I the person who's the first to come in the factory and stand and showcase that this is how I will lead the entire safe working environment in the factory or in the workplace? So now these are some of the things which then HR needs to also sensitize the senior management, that they need to start now becoming more prominently, you can say, involved in leading all these aspects of creating that ecosystem. And that is what I also call culture. Culture is nothing but the behaviors demonstrated by the most influential people. And who are these most influential people? These are CEOs and CXOs. So if you are saying something, doing something, you can have the bestest of what you call artificial intelligence tool. You can have bestest of analytical tool. You can have the bestest of consultant who can come and implement what you call SAPs and success factors and ERPs. What it will deliver? Nothing. It's just a cost. So the point here is, am I linking all these aspects which I just mentioned about the culture and the ecosystem with the business growth? And if that is there, then obviously then I am very, very clear where all I will start using these digital tools, these analytical tools for decision making, for enabling me to differentiate between a different type of talent and how I can leverage those. So for me, all these are tools. I'm a student of basic, and I always believe that every function and every role has a purpose. And if that purpose is very clear, if that purpose is very clear, articulated well, understood well, communicated well, rest is semantics to me.
Fair enough. I think, who was it? I think it was Amos Tversky who had said that, artificial intelligence can be what it is, but nothing to beat natural stupidity, right? So it's very important that we are taking care of the behavioral aspect, because the rest, I fully agree.
And just to quote one thing, there is a Harvard Business cover issue which has come in July 2019 or 20, which basically says that in the enterprise, technology is not an issue.
Yeah.
Culture is an issue.
Yeah.
You can buy technology, you can outsource technology, you cannot outsource culture.
Right.
So Pooja, just to add here, traditionally the HR role involved a lot of in-person interactions with the employees, whether you are taking the interviews, whether you are meeting with their team members, solving any kind of grievances around in general. Now this entire thing has turned into digital manner. So for me, it is not about how we are tracking the productivity or how people are, whether someone is working or not working, but it is more on the the softer aspect has become the more harder actually in the digital arena. And that's where the challenges on the collaboration, challenges on how you can build, how you can develop the people also in general, because we are wired not to only have the video trainings around it in general. So those are the key, you can say, the HR challenges when it comes to the digitalization process. And I would still say that it's a larger battle that needs to still consider, rather than thinking that, hey, we have won. No, it's an interim thing, but yes, from the long term perspective, one needs to relook again.
Absolutely. Hanji, Jayaji, your
Yeah, what I would think is adding to what Mr. Sanjeev Dixit is saying, it is not about HR business partner. It is about enterprise partner that the HR folks have to be now going forward. Kind of systems thinking, data thinking, emotionally, getting to understand what's happening on the ground, and then working out systems around it. Because increasingly, I'm realizing in my organization itself, I am not looking at, if there is a task to be achieved or a project, we are not looking at only one function. It is about different functions coming together. So it's something like a squad pool that we have. And this is like, I would like to add the phrase here, we call them permanently temporary. So they skip from one project to another project, which is on an immediate thing. And that is one thing that is evolved in a big level in my organization. Not forgetting the basics of a human requirement. And most of it is about what is the experience that we're giving the employee. I think the thrust is going to be more on that.
Yeah.
Digital can be a tool.
For that.
The human aspect, as you said, rightfully, we just cannot take it out. We know man is a social animal and we cannot just ignore it.
Absolutely. Rajeshji, your thoughts on that?
Yes, Pooja, as you asked, how digitization has affected industry after or during this pandemic. So, two things. One is that, yes, definitely, as Mr. Sanjeev rightly told, right, or I also adding to that, see, fundamental remains same, whether it was before pandemic or after the pandemic. So that remains same. And as Mr. Sanjeev explained, right, again, digital or digitization, that is a tool only, right? So definitely after pandemic, due to the social distancing norm also, so certainly we have started using more virtual platform. So far as any meeting is concerned, any interviews, I'm talking about the HR related tools like interviews all on now on virtual platform. Earlier we used to call candidate face-to-face meeting. Then the training part, a lot of now online training we have started, or other organizations are also moving towards that. So that way it has changed, like meeting or lot of approval, right? So there was, online or through email. Earlier there was system, so we were not using that way. So which one system we were having? So we are using that system more after the pandemic, right? So that is one thing. But again, if say, if you are going for some other tools, right? So then definitely ROI is very important. How it is actually going to deliver the business. We just cannot go everything digital in the name of pandemic or so, or changing, changing face of the working scenario. So that is how that is my take on that.
Yeah, I'll just before I jump on to my other question, I think this question is more for Rajeshji, for you also, and Sanjeevji, maybe you also. Any change that you sense in all of these things that have gone digital in any way they have impacted, let's say, blue collar workers? So because that's the bulk of the population, especially in the manufacturing segment. Any change that you've sensed in the way we are managing that that part of our talent? Either of you all can answer that. And I mean, of course, Jayaji, Deviji, if you have any thoughts, you can answer that. I just thought I'll keep it open to the gentlemen who probably are in the throes of manufacturing as well.
So the digital piece for the blue collar are being used for few of the things, in the sense that, for example, all these technical training programs, which is being done now, using, as I said, a lot of these digital platforms.
Right.
Even for example, as basic as your time and attendance.
Yeah.
Because of this COVID, now you have a more of a face recognition time and attendance than a finger or a card. Yeah. Which again facilitate a lot of smooth and safe, we can say, hygiene maintenance in the factory and the premise.
Right.
The other aspect of the digital is also now slowly lot of their you can say paper related work, whether it was their basic level of assessment, basic level of you can say skill, what you call gap analysis. A lot of these element is now getting you can say transformed on the system, and I think the way we are doing for the staff, I think more or less same approach is now going for even the blue collar workmen going forward.
Yeah. I think in any case, the new social security code that's coming in, it's going to ensure at least everything goes in the system, so to speak. So I think will fall in line. Yeah.
Wage code, the industrial code, everything is.
Yeah. Go ahead, Rajesh. You had something on that?
In fact, most of the thing Mr. Sanjeev already covered.
Yeah.
Yes, see, so far as daily, daily working concerned, there is still required to work on machines. So that will not change. So
Yeah.
that is not going to change, in fact. So that remains same. But yes, the training part, even technical training part, even in our kind of product, they need a lot of interaction by designer who design the transformer. So when they face some difficulty in actual manufacturing, so those things are taken. Earlier they used to come to soft load. They still come to soft load for some difficult issue. But many things are managed through the video call, right? And attendance part, only one change. Earlier we have this palm registration, right? Palm registration. So now we have gone to face reading. That is with the thermal machine. Whenever you enter the factory, your face, through face your attendance is taken care, and also that also shows your temperature. So that's little change, not much change. Yeah.
No, thanks you for that. So again, following up on, I think, a couple of words that were mentioned, like artificial intelligence and big data and augmented reality, and with the inspections and stuff, I think virtual reality, showing them the plant like that, and data. How has that impacted the way we work? How has that impacted the kind of information we seek and the kind of information we are able to provide to our leadership to take better decisions, maybe, or different decisions? Thoughts on that? Jaya, would you like to go?
Yeah, as you're saying this, what is coming to my mind is, see, we are in the financial industry. So basically, we are money lenders. If we get the money that we lend, then we are home. That's what it means. So for me, what it means is, how do I get back the money? And we all know what happened during the pandemic, the moratorium, and how the morat kept extending, and what the BFSI space would have gone through. So how do we ensure that my field guys, a guy who's getting about 15,000 rupees, who's sitting in, let's say, some remote Siliguri or some place, and how do I ensure that he's going and collecting? So first thing is getting them downloading the app. So this was not as urgent as earlier. So we had already ensured that they did it in record time of 2 days. The entire, I would say 15,000 employees on the ground. These are the count that is there all over. And then we started tracking there through geotagging, how are they making the visits? And there was a stipulated number of visits that they're supposed to make, except the red zones, right? So that was one way that we had to track it and get it done. And how is the incentives surrounding that? How do we push? And I'm very happy to say that we have done record collections in this pandemic. So this pandemic has actually opened up a plethora of opportunities for this company, the company that I work for, because we were able to look at, okay, this is how this works, daily work management. This is what we need to do. This is the incentive. Okay, this is not working. Let's change it. So we were able to make changes on weekly basis on incentives. Earlier it was written hard and fast. Maybe 6 months later or maybe 9 months later we used to look at it. So that's the most important thing that I would think happened here. Apart from, obviously, the data is required for all of this. The importance of looking at data, analyzing, and then throwing up what incentive works, what tweaking will improve this metric, those kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. I think real-time data had a whole new meaning in this time that we've had. Yeah, Devi, your thoughts on that?
So Pooja, for us, because we are into the fintech startup, so for us, the technology was never being a challenge. To be really honest with you, we never felt any kind of major challenge when we need to transition from physical space to the home workspace. And yes, data has become very core important. All the decisions are being now considered minutely based on the data as such. But again, when it comes to the HR, when it comes to the people, one can't minus the humanness at the workplace. I think that is something I prioritize it more rather than the data also in general, because it is the people who are making the business, not the other way around. So giving that respect, giving that importance cannot be, it cannot come in the front face of AI or some other technology also. So that is my personal view as well. But yes, it has become very important in general.
Yeah. Rajesh, your thoughts on that?
So you are asking how that this digital transformation has
data, artificial intelligence, for example. I mean, आप तो manufacturing में हैं, so how is the machine being machine information being captured, transferred, used for anything that you've sort of, I mean, almost getting down to now that we have the technology which we had to invest in, or we had to sort of, it was a catalyst. Are we able to use some of that data as HR? So, for example, I'll give you an example. In an organization that I know of, there, because the technology is there now to capture the machine reading straight from the machine, let's say to SAP, that also helps in capturing the individual productivity of the people on the shop floor. So we've used that, we've sort of piggybacked on the technology that was invested in to say, okay, why not this then? Why not use it to capture individual productivity? Because again, that was also becoming to be a big question mark, that if people are remote, if people are not there, if people are, you know, whatever the case may be, how are we measuring performance in this, in this scenario? So this was one way that we piggybacked on technology that was already being used. So that was
okay. It has not, in fact, impacted us that way. Only thing, as I was speaking about, our design. So design is one of the important part of our manufacturing process. So in design, there is one process called design review, right? So earlier it was done manual during meeting with the say drawing and all. So that they have developed a software, and through that software and the virtual mode, they are discussing and reviewing the design. So that way, definitely it has in fact helped, and it has just impacted a little bit. Or we have been forced to change way of reviewing the design. This has in fact helped in terms of so far as the efficiency of design is concerned. And soft floor, yes, every time the designer has to go and visit physically, so many support they can provide virtually now. And there is another process called in our manufacturing process that is called testing. Finally, when the product is ready, it goes for testing, right? So in testing also, customer also need to involve. Finally, we saw him after testing this transformer, it's ready and ready for you. For that lot of electrical testing is required. So that is also done, most of the testing virtually now. So that is how it has impacted our manufacturing process.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Sanjeev, anything to add to that?
So most of the areas is towards improving the productivity, efficiency, effectiveness, optimization, because the learning from the entire pandemic has been that most of the areas where we have either postponed or deferred the entire exercise of you can say productivity optimization or efficiency optimization. And that is where the entire knee jerk happened in terms of cutting the manpower or cutting the cost or the cutting of the what you call a salary. I think the learning is that if we do this entire process using the data and using all the process design and process benchmarking, we will not able to we will not get into a knee-jerk kind of a scenario going forward. And I think that's where a lot of these tools are being now started getting utilized. I think long way to go, because especially in the manufacturing and you can say industrial engineering sector, still it needs to further get matured. While in the, you can say, more of IT, ITS, what you call industry, the usage of all these tools are extensively being done for the last more than 1.5 to 2 decades. So I think that's where the entire focus would be, and I think we will start getting matured, leveraging these entire what we call tools.
Okay, going forward with just the quick ones, which I thought I'd ask. One is, we've spoken about our roles. What do you think has been the big change in the role of that middle management segment in the past few months, and how do you think, has that changed for good? What have been the big factors that are different about what managers did back then and what they need to do now? Thoughts on that? Sanjeev, would you like to lead with that?
I don't see any distinct difference between middle management vis-a-vis senior management and the junior management, because middle management is the entire managerial what you call workforce, which is looking towards the senior management in terms of how they are role modeling all those aspects, and what they are seeing in the senior management in terms of the behaviors being role model. I think the middle management is just the most of the time are the followers. So I didn't see any what you call distinct change. Yes, depending upon how the communication flew from the top in terms of that we have to continue to build a strong connect with our team. We need to give them, as I said, good listening. We need to ensure that in your respective team, there is no what you call challenge of providing them all kind of service and support in this hour of need. So I think these the entire what you call communication from the top is got cascaded and facilitated very effectively by the middle management, if I have to put it that way. And I think that become most important role, the bridge between the frontline and the top management. I think the middle management demonstrated uniquely in line with how the senior management, as I said, role model. As simple as that.
Yeah. Okay. Devi, your thoughts?
I think, Pooja, it has given a lot of insight to people during this pandemic times, because it's not only professionally what people have gone through, it's a personal life also. You know, everyone has started doing the house work activities on their own. There was no support at home, you know, any external support. So in general, yes, I believe there has been a change. There has been a mindset change in the leaders. And everyone is now realizing that, okay, you know, one needs to stick to their what is the core and the core values and the core beliefs you think about it. So it is not someone will do something superficially. It is what your belief is, because in the crisis situations are the real situation to test your characteristics, you know, what you believe in life in general. So I think, yes, there's a mindset change, and people have become more sensitive to each other. They understand that, you know, 10 to 7 doesn't mean that someone needs to be glue on the laptop continuously. People need some break time also. There's a burnout also people are having. So that sensitivity, that understanding has increased a lot. And it's, you know, once as a leader you start doing it, your team members also start behaving in this manner.
Jaya?
Pooja, I feel it's not about middle managers, or it's about who is showing, I mean, it's about resilience. I mean, we've been talking about it, I think, in all the forums these days, but I genuinely believe that true leadership came during this crisis. Who are the guys who can take the company forward? What is the skill set that's required? Clearly, I saw some of the groups that stood out against others in this pandemic, how they rose above the situation and addressed it when it comes to the team, when it comes to delivering programs, when it comes to launching new products in the crisis time, and how some of the support functions actually became the heroes here. Like, I think the capability building function and how they started teaching the people through the digital form. They were working like, you know, I would think 20 hours in a day and rolling out pan India. I mean, because the schemes were getting changed so fast. And how do we ramp up? How do we use the digital platform to roll this out so that the communication is seamless, so that people don't have any doubts? So I think leadership is not about middle management. Of course, senior management is obviously.
I'll actually add to that, Jay. I think the reason for my asking this question is that even on in the good life, or in the past good golden days or whatever, research told us that only not only 7 out of 10 people don't have the talent to be a manager. They become managers simply because of the way our performance management system has been, that the way to actually, you know, recognize someone for the good work that they've done as individual contributors is to promote them and make them managers. But then what does it actually took to be a manager was very different. And I was wondering if that has changed a lot, because what I've come across and what research is also suggesting is human resource is no longer a function. It's almost become like what you guys are saying, it's an attribute. I mean, do I have it in me to take care or to drive this team forward with resilience, ensuring productivity, ensuring that they develop, ensuring that they're engaged? So do I have it in me to be able to do that, keeping in mind that command and control is lost?
Absolutely.
It's completely out of the
Bang on.
window. You guys are no longer in front of me. So you could be anywhere, yet if I have to go ahead and work on that. So I think that was the thing that,
Absolutely.
was crossing my mind.
So just to add to what what you saying, Pooja, I was talking to you about the squad pool, which is people from cross functions coming together to complete a project. So this is more about not the departments are not silos anymore. It's about how do we complete, how do we do the task, and how do we move on to the next task. At the same time, keeping them engaged and ensuring that they do the job that they're doing so well.
I think you've really said a very important thing. The idea of silos, I think that has really dissipated in some way, simply because I don't think there is any one department or function that can independently do anything now. So
True.
like I was just reading about it, whether it's finance, whether it's IT, whether it's HR, I mean,
And marketing.
so core, and marketing, and was in a conversation with one of the marketing teams. So just like we were talking about, Rajeshji, what you mentioned, that you're doing virtual inspections and all of that, people are doing virtual market weeks. They used to go to the US or to Europe to showcase a product. But since that is not happening, everything is happening online now, and happening very, very well, actually. But then that also means to get that thing up and running, it's not just the marketing team. The branding team has become very important. The
Absolutely.
IT team has become very important. The product team and the designing team has become. Everybody comes together to sort of make it happen. So I think that's probably a good thing to have come out of it all, isn't it?
I think collaboration is at its peak in general.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree to that. Yeah, excellent. So okay, fast forward 2025. So let's say we are in 2025 now. What do you think are things that have permanently changed when you look back and you said, okay, that was the tipping point or the turning point that changed for good? It never did. So there is no back to normal. We all know that. It's never going back to normal. There is always going to be this thing. So what were the things, if you were in 2025 today and you look back and you said, wow, that really changed?
I think, Pooja, the entire employee journey, from that time you go for the talent acquisition to the entire exits. Like we are having exits all virtually, all the onboarding virtually. So the entire journey of employee, if I will see what used to happen in 2018 to 2025, it will have a drastic change for sure. And the second will definitely the upskilling part, I would say.
That is, I think, critical. Wherever we read, we are reading about skills that are getting redundant, new skills that are coming in. And unfortunately, even we don't know what those new skills are. So forget about training anybody. We have no idea what those new skills are.
Yeah.
Sanjeev, thoughts on that?
So reflecting on the previous thing, which was we were discussing about silos getting broken, collaboration getting improved. So to me, COVID is not a utopia or you can say panacea of solution. I think COVID, what it has done is it has put the sense of urgency, right, and also exposed a lot of the I will say the entire style of managing things, the entire leadership or fake leadership or the authentic leadership. It only exposed. Now, there are two ways of responding to such exposure. One is either I change this or improve it, or I absolutely perish basis this entire exposure. So I think that is, COVID has only shown the mirror in a very, very rapid and in a very drastic manner to in the last 1 year. So there is no, I will say, utopia or idealism that, because of COVID, culture become more collaborative, or the people who were working in silos suddenly started working like a team. So that didn't happen. So I just want to bust that myth. Coming to this entire thought process of 2025, I think, as you rightly mentioned, we are not going back to normal. The one permanent change which will happen is the hybrid work environment. We will have a mix of both the world in terms of working from home and working from what you call factory or workplace. This hybrid model is going to remain. And then your entire what you call HR thinking or people management thinking has to now evolve around the hybrid model. How you build the connect, how you build the trust, how you create a very personalized ecosystem in an impersonal environment. And the most important piece, I believe, would be the entire shift from this employer brand to experience brand. I think this entire what you call cottage industry of employer branding, where every Tom, Dick, and Harry is getting a great place to work certification, which can be bought and which can be done through a PR. I think the experience of the employee, the moment of truth of the employee, that will become a more sustainable brand in terms of attracting what you call right kind of people and talent to the organization, their nurturing, their development, their retention. So I think this shift is going to very drastically going to happen from more PR-driven employer brand to more, as I said, moment of truth-driven what you call employer brand, and find experience brand. And finally, as I'm a proponent and exponent of culture, I think culture will take a center stage. Earlier, the entire thought process in the board and in the senior management team has been, oh, we need to have a great strategy, we need to have an excellent plan, and we have to execute to the core and have an excellent execution, and we will have a phenomenal result. I think that shift will move from, okay, what are the kind of behaviors which needs to be role modeled by senior managers or senior management, how those role modeling of behaviors is going to impact the overall ecosystem and environment of the organization, how it will inspire passion and commitment from the talent across the generation, how they will contribute on a sustainable basis and become, as I said, important stakeholder of the organization. So the shift will also happen now from culture being a byproduct of the strategy execution or whatever we've been doing conventionally for the last century. It will become more culture will be the starting point. It will be the entire, as I said, the top management agenda from where the strategy will flow. So from strategy focused culture, we will move from culture focused strategy.
I think the one thing that I have also heard when it comes to adding the virtual to the culture piece is the fact that actually in organizations, because of the hybrid model that we're talking about, they may not be a composite culture anymore, which means that there probably would be as many cultures as there are teams and smaller SBUs and manageable, manager teams, etc. So one might have to take cognizant of the fact that the composite culture and what we're espousing as an organization when we were together that definition might undergo some shift when it comes to all of this, sort of extrapolating in that sense. But yeah, absolutely with you on.
But the larger non-negotiable values,
yeah,
which will drive the entire what you call as I said, the way of working of the senior management and then further cascaded down the organization, that will not change.
Sure.
Mini culture and informal and what you call formal culture still exists across small teams and larger teams.
Sure.
But the leader is going to be the custodian of these cultures.
So I was talking to a CEO on a lighter note and talking to him about all of this that's happening. So to your point, Sanjeev was very clear. He said it will be change management or it will be change management. Just change them if they're not working for the company. So it's change management or change
universal
management.
Truth. This is a universal truth.
So anyway, Rajeshji, Jay, any thoughts on that around the 2025 and all that?
Yes, three things. Definitely this digitization and automation. that is going to evolve across the industry. That is for sure, right? Second thing, as Mr. Sanjeev spoke about the hybrid model of the working, so that is already adopted by many industry, and others are going to follow that. That is for sure. These two things will come. And third thing, this leadership capability, right? I mean, we normally say that change is constant, right? But this pandemic has shown us that change can be sudden also, right? So to cope up with this kind of situation, I mean, our leadership should be, first is resilient, agile, decisive, and also adapting. So these are the very, these are the, I mean, characteristics which we, maybe organization will look from the leaders. That is
I
what,
think that's absolutely right. I think even I've read in quite a few places that, and I think everybody's saying the same thing. This may not be the first pandemic that has hit us. It's the start of many. So I think what Rajesh ji is saying makes a lot of sense, that leaders would want to be prepared, would want to be agile and decisive and resilient, keeping in mind that something that has happened now, it could very well happen again and again. So, that's probably a point. Jay, anything you want to add to that?
Apart from whatever Rajesh spoke about, I agree with Sanjeev that COVID is just preponed whatever was that we took for granted, that okay, we will look at it, we'll see, take time. But now we don't have any dekhna, we have to do now. So that's something that I agree. Apart from that, what I would think is we are going to deal with, I think, I mean, people who've been vaccinated. So there is a lot of financial, I would think, people who've lost jobs, or people who are looking at, understanding what's a new job market looking like. So that's something that we have to deal with. So where I'm coming when I'm saying this is, there are 5 things that I think is going to be the 5 pillars for employee well-being, which I think most of you all are aware of, which is the emotional, social, financial, physical, and I would think the digital part of it. These are the 5 pillars that I think is going to take the company forward. And I think the first 4, which we all know what it means: emotional, social, financial, and physical. When I speak about digital, most of the companies would have already adopted, this employee portals and those kind of things. But looking at the edges, the corner of the envelope, what are the things that we can tweak? Who's the person in the human resource function, or is it a human resource function itself, or do we need to look at a tech partner in the human resource who's going to continuously keep scanning and looking at that? How do we reduce that boundary? How do we increase the experience? I mean, that's going to be key, I think, and that's going to be the game changer in terms of attracting employees and engaging them.
You're absolutely right. I think technology is going to play an increasingly larger role, whether it's in the human resource function or in the finance function or in the strategy function. I think it's immaterial. I mean, so much so, I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were telling me that even in hospitals and renowned hospitals, and when they meet in their board meetings and when they talk, from an earlier time, like a decade ago, the doctors used to come and make presentations. This is the new breakthrough, this is the research, this is the science, etc. They're saying for the past 3 years now, and it's not COVID related, for the past 3 years, the presentations are actually being made by technology folks in the hospitals, the IT folks, saying that this is how surgeries can be done, and the doctor need not even be in the same continent. So, when you start looking at the fact that you have everything right there, they see what they have to see. So the point here being that technology is in our lives in ways that we don't even anticipate. It's for us, it's just, this, that, and other, but it's embedded everywhere. So that was like a big aha moment for me when I heard that IT and technology is the one that's presenting in hospitals. So that's what they are doing. So that's how, serious it is. So I think it's been such a great chat. I think my last question, and I was just thinking from the point of view of folks who are still deciding on careers and deciding on whether HR is the right line. So any piece of advice that what are the skills that they should have if they have to be successful HR professionals in the future?
I think without a doubt, yes, without a doubt, Pooja, it should be the emotional quotient. That's a must skill for any HR professional to be there. Technical skills you can learn, labor laws you can learn, and other part, but emotional quotient is the most important thing.
Absolutely. Anything else that comes to mind? All right. So any questions Ashish, if you're there, Chandanji, if you're there, any questions? I think we have one question from Rishabh in the
From
question and
Rishabh,
answer.
sure. Correct.
Yeah. So I think the question that they've asked is how does OKR-based pay system help a company in efficiency and employee headcount?
Mhm.
How is it different from a normal pay system? I believe Trident has. I can go and talk about OKRs, Rishabh, for another 2 hours from here. There's a lot to talk about. There is a lot to learn. Would love to connect with you. I can let you know how we've done it and how has it worked. It's a concept of variable pay, and the idea why OKR has just assumed a little bit more relevance in today's time, if I were to relate it to the topic at hand, is the fact that employees need to have that flexibility to be able to decide what they want to be measured on, because that is something that they are taking ownership of. And the second thing is, with erstwhile models of performance management, you had a goal setting that stayed consistent, that stayed constant for at least 1 year. It's no longer the case. It's a moving goalpost. Things change very, very fast. So if you have a sort of a flexible model like objectives and key results, it gives people the flexibility to decide that, okay, for this month, this is my priority. For this month, this is my priority. So organizations, even like Accenture, etc., have taken up the idea of using priorities to decide what people want to focus on and what people want to develop. It need not always be linked to increments and pay raises, but it's definitely linked to, it's a more developmental conversation. So that's how it sort of plays into the whole performance management gamut. So I hope that sort of answers your question a little bit. We'll be happy to discuss later. Absolutely. I think we have one more question, and I'll leave it to the group to answer that if somebody wants to take a shot at it. How should we digitalize skill development in manufacturing industry, especially for frontline workers? How should we digitalize? Any thoughts, anyone?
Again, it is flowing from the business need. So once we have kind of very clearly articulated what are the business priorities for this year and the coming years, we then break it down into various, you can say, needs from technical to functional, behavioral, leadership, and you can further break it down in terms of sub areas which is immediately giving you say productivity enhancement, immediately improving your product pipeline, immediately improving your you can say go to market, your some of the, as I said, key business priority, how you are hitting those priorities through reskilling and upskilling on those areas. And then you continuously keep measuring it. You continuously keep, as I said, raising the different maturity level. And then you can see the impact directly to the business top line and bottom line.
Absolutely, and I think Anshul, the good part is that there is a lot of technology out there that can help you do that. So I think somebody's mentioned bots as well. Somebody's mentioned, so there are online. So the LMS, if you have invested in one, now there are ways and means of making sure that the blue collared workers are also privy to that sort of technology to be able to do it for them. So that's probably the way in which it has really I think taken off. Otherwise, yeah, so that's how I think development, from what I have heard, has taken off in the digital space in that sense. And I think Rajesh is quite I think he's made a point here saying that the pandemic, so to say, the new normal, have given edge to those companies who have invested in digital transformation. Due to digital transformation, productivity has sparked up. The myth buster that work from home reduces productivity proved to be taboo now. Thoughts on that? I know there are mixed researches around that. One can say that productivity has gone up, productivity has gone down, but I think what I've read very recently, the sweet spot is 2 or 3 days. People want to be given the option. This way or that way is not optimizing productivity, but having the option of 2-3 days working from home, the other 2 days having the freedom or the flexibility to go to your place of work and collaborate with your co-workers, that's the sweet spot of optimizing productivity. Jaya, Devi, Sanjeev, if anyone has a point on that, please do add.
Yeah, Pooja, I completely agree with you. In fact, other than the collectors who needs to be in the field, wherever the customer has not downloaded the app, I think the other departments, the hybrid is what works best. Say if there's a 5-day working week, 3 days he can be in office, 2 days at home. And in some cases, people who want to be at home to take care of grown-up elderly parents or young children, it works best for them. So it's a win-win for both if we find out where is the sweet spot and fit them there.
Absolutely. I think hybrid model is the new normal for each one of us. And it's also linked with the role, the individual is playing in the organization, because that decides a lot of other things also. But hybrid is the answer to the future.
Yeah. Great.
So
I think
it is also about as I said, again, going back to the basics in terms of the clarity, whether you're working from home, you're working from office or factory, if you have a good clarity in terms of what you need to deliver, what is expected out of you, what is the kind of support being provided, how you are having a joint accountability with other team members in terms of delivering the goods. I think again, the workplace is relatively now become immaterial. With work from home become a kind of a necessity, irrespective of a different industry, because work from home for IT has been there for the last 15 years, and they've been delivering goods for so many years. Only in case of manufacturing and non-IT industry, this was the first test in terms of breaking the myth. And the most of the cases, including my organization, in past, because I was in Himalaya, Dubai, during this major part of the pandemic, the team has delivered significantly. Because pre-COVID, we had an absolute good clarity in terms of how we are supporting each other goal in terms of our whatever you call it, KRAs or KPIs. We are absolutely clear.
Absolutely. So great. I think with that, we've I think answered most questions that were there. I think all of us are available online at any time if somebody wants to reach out for any clarifications or anything that you may want asked. Over to you, Chandanji, Priteshji, if you guys want to just say a few words.
So thank you so much. In fact, I was one of the audience and been listening every single word and statement coming from you thought leaders, and ये 1.5 घंटे कैसे निकले एकदम पता ही नहीं चला. So it was so much exciting, so much learning over here. So and what learning which we come to come across, that first of all that we should really praise that in true sense this panel did justice to the topic which we have discussed, which we have designed today, the future of HR 2021. A very deep discussion happened, and really a new age in HR leaders. Many ideas came from this important deliberation today. So just to conclude that, first of all, let me thank you, Pooja ji. A wonderful moderation done by you. A great blend of inputs and thought, came out from this discussion today. So it was an absolute delight, to hear the engaging and wonderful deliberation by all of you, representing, the renowned organizations of the country. You are in the top leadership role and having huge responsibilities over your shoulders. I'm sure that you and your entire team, must be delivering innovative ways of HR practices, which has brought transformation in the HR ecosystem and has improved the work culture and organization performance. So identifying the employability skills, hiring the right talent pool, training, motivating them, retaining them, rewarding them, appraising, and so many is really very tough, which needs a very cool mind, a very calm mind altogether. So let's embrace the technology is what has been the outcome of this event. So skilling, reskilling, upskilling definitely is in need of an hour. Collaboration and adopting the hybrid mode of learning is what we came to learn from today's discussion. So thank you so much. In fact, all the panelists today, thank you so much, Jaya ji. Thank you so much, Ms. Devi, Pooja ji, Dr. Sanjeev, for bringing such in-depth inputs over here. Thank you so much, Rajesh ji, for sharing your experience and bringing a very good blend of thoughts all together over here. Thank you so much, audience. We hope that you all enjoyed and learned valuable inputs and insights from our eminent speakers today. In my chat box, I can see a feedback form link. So it is a request and appeal to everybody. You please, go through this feedback form link. This is actually helping us understand and improve in our delivery and performance. So it is. We also come to understand that what are the key aspects which you would like to come up with the next session, the next discussion. Before leaving, I would just request and appeal to everybody to kindly log this, to kindly like and kindly like and share the social media handles and links. We are there on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So all the latest updates and happenings in the HR industries through this social media channels, we keep on coming up with you. Also, we would like to tell you that digital HR is emerging as one of the media houses where we are engaging the HR community people, and we are inviting the articles, some guest blogs, interviews, or any happenings which is very innovative and digital in its own way, which you would like to share with us. We ensure you that our editorial team will be viewing that, and with few edits we'll be posting that on our websites, and we'll be doing the social media promotion of that thing. So with that, would just like to say everybody, Ritesh, would you like to comment on something to come at as a conclusion note from your end?
No, I think, yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, the kind of thoughts came from the, all stalwarts from the diversified verticals, like it's a manufacturing, fintech, and non-IT side and all. It was really, really helpful for the people who are here as an audience. And thanks to everyone for, giving your thoughts from the speaker side. Thank you, audience, for joining today's webinar. Thanks a lot to everyone.
Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay tuned. Namaste to everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.